haven't paid anything. I just thought I'd just have a little chat. This is a work, it's part of an ongoing conversation that I have in my studio with every work. I never make a body of work. My work is just a whole body of work. One work will form out of the other work. And all my works driven by, they're all self-portraits really, or they're memories of my time in hospital in the UK. And I was in an injury, was in an accident, I've got quite a bad injury and I have chronic pain. And so what's happened in my work since I've moved from painting to back into clay is that I can viscerally make the moment that I'm feeling at the time into the work. So it's really human and it's deeply personal to me, each piece that I make, and it's how I'm literally feeling on that day or during that week is what becomes of the work. They're usually quite bloody and they are quite brutal, but I also find the work to be positive and beautiful, because that's kind of how I see the journey that I've taken because of this accident. I see it as a massive positive experience rather than a negative one. So the work is continual and that conversation is always happening because there's always something different happening in my body each day. So that's where the work comes from. And I was really pleased to make a work for Vivian for lots of reasons, but really for Scott, because I think he's done an awesome job here. And this is part of a body of work. I've got a show on conjunctively in Geneva at the moment. And this, I made a series of 8 works, and this was the 9th work that I made, and I kind of had them all out, and I picked the work that I thought was the most difficult work and kept it back, because I always think the difficult works are always the best works. I didn't think it was particularly easy. And so what I do is I make works in sections. Because of my kiln size, I'm quite limited at the moment to how big I can go. So I'll make a whole, maybe 3 or 4 bases of different, and then I'll make some middle bits, and then I'll make some little bits, and then I'll make shards, and I will just play around for weeks and weeks and weeks, stacking up, unstacking, putting different works inside different works, till I finally figure out what work is what. So this work, you know, I made this part of this work 6 months ago. This was very recent. These are 2 years old. This was very recent. That's recent. So, you know, they'll sit in my studio and they won't become a work until I've played and played and played around for a long, long time before it actually works. And that's a really nice thing, because it's assemblage really, and it has a looseness to it. I'm not particularly precious about the work. I don't care that I like the fact that there are gaps and holes, and you can see raw clay and cracks, and that it's not even. It's quite important to the work that it is all bodily and brutal. So I keep it very raw, and I will really expose different parts of the work. You can always see into different parts of the work. And the shards, I often put shards on the work because that creates a sort of sharp, angular aspect to this really round bodily work. So again, it makes it more uncomfortable. The more uncomfortable, the better, from my point of view. That's kind of where I'm at the moment. We'll see where I'm at in 6 months' time. What Dale Frank uses in his work is what I exactly, it's called liquid glass, is what I use in my work, and I used to use it in my painting. And then when I started working with ceramics, I realised that glaze, you're quite limited with glazes. You can't do that kind of, you can't get thin drips like that with a glaze because it'll just snap, and you can't get certain particular colours with glaze. And I realised very early on that I could just transfer what I do on a canvas onto the clay, and that's what I do. And so really I make work and then I paint it. I paint it like I'm painting a painting, so I'll look at it quite formally. I'll do bright areas against dark, there'll be plain, there'll be dense areas. You know, I really look at it as from a painting point of view, because I'm trained as a painter. I'm not trained as a ceramic artist at all. This is very new to me. I've only been making clay works for 4 years. But I was fortunate last year. I went to Denmark for 2 months on a residency to Guleogong, which is a International Centre for Ceramics, and I spent 2 months there with 15 other ceramic artists. So I learned an awful lot very quickly, and I remember going, and a friend of mine was there, Jim Cooper was there when I was there. He's a New Zealand ceramic artist who made this. And I went and I just sucked up all this knowledge that I didn't know, because I knew very little, and all about glazes, so much stuff. And at the end of it, I remember Jim said to me after 3 weeks, oh, you don't want to know just don't know that stuff, because you'll get trapped. You get trapped in the ceramic world where there are all these rules, but because you don't, and Gary said it to me too, because you don't know those rules, you don't know. Yeah, and I'm breaking all the rules, but I don't know I'm breaking the rules. And I was watching Jim work. I don't know if you guys know Jim Cooper's work, but he does figurative works. And they're very loose and lumpy, and they're beautiful, beautiful works. And he said to me, oh, so annoying. I wish I could unlearn what I know, because he's trapped there. And so I don't look at other ceramic artists for my work at all. I never, ever do, which is really good. I look at painters. At the moment, I'm looking at Howard Hodgkins. That's kind of my obsessive thing at the moment. He's kind of turning me on right now, and I stay very clearly out of that object world, and I don't look at a lot, because I think it's a slippery slope to do that. So it's I have this massive freedom, and I can go into my studio every day. Very different from because painting, you're very insular, and you're kind of, there's a formula when you start working, but this is really good because there are no rules. It's very playful, and it's really fun to do.